speaker goes out, one other person at least goes with that speaker. And that other person makes notes of how the audience reacted to certain key points. What was the body language? And then when the questions and answers come up, they make a note. What questions were asked? What did the audience, you know, when this tough question was asked, did everybody in the audience say, yeah, right on, baby? Or did they kind of look perplexed? Remember, that's where people tell you what's really going on inside them. And so this other person's job is to study that audience, listen to the questions, get all that data down. And all of this goes back into this database. It is so easy to be in touch with your publics as you have never been before on a continuing basis, simply by structuring it and organizing it, instead of all this just kind of loose, gee, we're going to talk to some folks and we're going to do these things. Well, that's constituency relations. Next subject, behavioral research. This is a lengthy topic, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I simply want to suggest 2 or 3 ways that you might use research in a more behavioral fashion. One of the first techniques that we at least discovered, and therefore I can speak on with some sense of surety because we have done it a number of times, is, well, it works like this. Every organization is constantly putting out information and is assuming that there's a certain amount of acceptance, belief, trust in that organization. Now, research almost always shows us that it ain't true. In fact, management has a major problem in this country in almost every organization, and that is that management, being close to the information, assumes that key publics also have that information. In fact, the Technical Assistance Research Project, TARP, which has done a great deal of the research work in this area, they're the ones who really developed the 800-line concept and a number of others. In fact, it was their research that showed us that it's 6 times more expensive to get a new customer than to keep a present one, or at least theirs was the first such study. TARP wanted to know, what is this gap between what organizations think their publics know and between what their publics really know about the product, the service, the policies, and so forth. And here's what they found. On a scale of 100, managers were convinced that the public knew 70%. When you went and asked the public, they knew 15. There's a 55% gap. Now look, that shouldn't surprise us. These people don't give a damn. They're busy with their own lives. But because executives work in an organization, they assume everybody out there is paying attention. And so here's what we started doing. We started taking all of the statements that we claim we stand for. These are our values, this is our mission, these are the things we're trying to accomplish. And we put those together into a stands for presentation, and then we get management to agree, yep, that's it, that's what we stand for. And then we go out, not necessarily with huge expensive research, we may just do a quota sample, making sure we touch all ages and types of customer or employee or whatever the public is. We go out with a quota sample and we ask them, okay, what are we known for? The 55% gap almost every time immediately rises. Management has to confront the fact that the publics out there don't know what they think they know, and suddenly we're able now to remove that wonderful standoff, unknowing exclusion of management and get them right back into the middle of the realities of the organization. Now, this kind of gap research, if you will, has come to be a very powerful tool, particularly, say, in working with customers or in working with internal audiences. The typical internal employee, if you will, research asks employees all those typical questions, you know, do you like your job? Are you satisfied? Are we communicating with you? Does your boss treat you well? All that baloney, which, you know, any intelligent employee knows to answer yes to because a pink slip might be next. It frankly doesn't tell us what we need to know. It's not behavioral. Now, supposing that we had a kind of research where, in fact, we could get the employees themselves to set the goals for the organization and tell us how they're feeling in the doing. And here's how we do it. We will ask an employee in an employee study, How well do you think we're doing on, say, customer satisfaction? Right now, honestly. Maybe they'll say we're doing 3 on a scale of 7. And then we ask them, why do you think this is, why are we doing this? You see, so we do find out, after all, what they think, but more importantly, we find out what's happening, that we're only 3 on a scale of 7. Then the next question is, where do you think we could be, given the people in the organization and our policies and all that? If we really got our act together, where do you think we could be? And they'll probably say, well, we could be 4.5 on a scale of 7, or 5, or 6, or whatever. Notice what they've just done. The employees have just told us all how far they are willing to go, what goal could be set. Management didn't say, we're going to get up to 6. The employees said, this is the gap. We think we can bridge it. That is behavioral research, because the employees themselves have set the goal and have told you why you were not reaching it before. And, of course, the next questions would be, what do you think we should change in order to get up here to the new standard that you think we could reach? This kind of gap research is increasingly the norm, because you notice it doesn't deal with 62.4 think one way. Who cares? What we want to know is, what are people likely to do? How are they going to behave? And here is a method for finding out how they're going to behave. The only other thing I want to say about this kind of research, or any behavioral research, is the importance of using it in public relations. I see probably hundreds, maybe thousands of research documents every year. And I have to tell you, most of them, to me, are an absolute waste of time. They ask people how they feel. They ask people how they think. I don't care what they think. I don't care how they feel. What I want to know is, what are they doing? What are they likely to do? So what I really want to measure is their current behavior on the one hand. And of course, the nice thing about measuring that, you see, is that I can check that out. I can't check out their feelings or their thinking. They can tell me anything they want to. And Americans lie like troopers on research. We know that. And it isn't just that we lie, if you will. It's that, can you really remember your thought process and your feelings about something? You know, why did you not vote for such and such a thing? How do I know? That was last week. I'm on to something else now. So it's difficult for us to recall it anyway. But if we ask people what is their present behavior, sure, they may still, you know, we're very idealistic Americans. See, if you ask me, did I give to charity? Oh, man, I am going to check yes. Even though I haven't given in the last 2 years, I mean, the answer is yes, because that's the ideal way to behave. So you'll still get some of that, but at least you can check behavior. The second thing we want to know is, okay, what is your latent readiness to behave in a certain way? Either the same way you are, some new behavior that I might ask of you. Now again, research is only a model of reality. It isn't totally reliable, but it's a lot better than knowing that 62.4 on a certain day and time felt a certain way. OD, Organization Development Techniques. What is OD? OD is the ability to make an intervention in a network, in a group, between two individuals, between two groups. It's a way to behaviorally put yourself or some one person intervening between these two to help them, in fact, to work more closely together, to have better teamwork, productivity, achieve common goals, which of course implies that they are achieving their own goals. People obviously are only going to go after common goals if they see them as their own personal goals. Now, at our firm, we have a belief that public relations, in fact, includes in its techniques the OD techniques. It's our belief that indeed we should be able to deal with all relationships which are acted out in public, and that includes even situations as small as one-on-one. And so we need to bring these OD techniques, the ability to go to those two individuals and to have the candor to lay out for them what's happening. And if they can't understand that, to have techniques, metaphoric or allegoric or whatever kind of techniques that will put them in the position where they will confront the situation and eventually, hopefully, confront one another and have that conflict managed. And I should tell you that Otto Lurbinger and I, when we took over PI Reporter back in 1976, we sat down and compared notes and talked to a whole lot of senior practitioners all over the United States and Canada, and said in the rest of the century, you know, we think big at PI Reporter, in the rest of the century, what is going to be the one thing that public relations people are going to start doing that they haven't done before more than any other? You know what the answer was? Training. We are going to more and more be training others in how to build relationships and less thinking we can do it all ourselves, because you don't have to be a genius to know that we cannot handle all those relationships. It takes everybody in the organization understanding how to do it. How do you get started? How do you get started in behavioral public relations? I think it's simple. Many of you have heard me say this before, but I want to say it one more time. From now on, when you are faced with an opportunity, with a problem, with an assignment, just coming to work in the morning, instead of immediately writing something down or turning on your computer and starting to write something, don't do that. Instead, just kind of push your chair back and sit there and look up at the ceiling and ask yourself one question. What behaviors am I trying to motivate, reinforce, or modify in what I am about to do? I have a hunch, if you will just start thinking about it, if all of us in public relations will start to think of behavioral goals, that's where we will start trending. A lot of the old stuff we've done, we won't do. A lot of these new things we will do because we know they have that power. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and I hope that you will join with me and many others who are finding a real chance to put public relations where it ought to be in our organizations and in our society by focusing on the true bottom line of behavior.